It's actually the people around the whole world logging onto Netflix last night to find not one, not two, but 3 episodes from the new Harry and Meghan documentary. And after years of speculation, we got to hear their side of the story, their relationship, and also what happens beyond the tabloid.
The message had remained untouched since Prince Philip's death, sealed inside a private Windsor archive and marked with a name few expected to see: Lilibet. But when Zara Tindall finally opened the protected file and read what her grandfather had written, her expression changed completely. Within hours, she was demanding a private meeting with Meghan. And what began as a family discovery became a confrontation capable of reopening the monarchy's deepest wounds. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. Zara entered the Windsor archive expecting papers, not a duty from the grandfather she missed. The archive, a protected collection where royal records are stored, held correspondence and instructions Prince Philip had prepared before his death. He wrote for younger descendants, believing words should reach them only when old enough to understand the burden and comfort of belonging to the House of Windsor. Then Zara found Lilibet's name. She sat alone and read the instruction sheet twice. Philip had written a sealed message for Lilibet Diana Mountbatten Windsor, and his order was clear. The child must receive it without alteration, publicity, or parental reinterpretation. Zara gripped the page. This was not palace material to be shaped into a statement. It was a great-grandfather speaking directly to a child who had never received his final words. Her grief hardened when a documented transfer record revealed that Meghan already knew a private item existed. Palace staff attempted protected delivery, yet the Duchess resisted any transfer that removed her authority to review the contents first. Meghan may have acted as a protective mother, but to Zara, a promise had been trapped inside an adult conflict. A second warning waited on the envelope in Philip's handwriting. Lilibet was to open it only when she could understand the difference between family history and public storytelling. Zara read that sentence again, hearing his blunt voice behind it. He had anticipated the danger. He knew memory could be edited and turned into ammunition. Zara called Meghan before leaving. She said she had found something belonging to Lilibet and would explain only in person, without lawyers, advisors, cameras, or intermediaries. Meghan agreed, but the pause before her answer was too long. Her guarded tone told Zara that she was not hearing this story for the first time. Zara ended the call, placed the sealed envelope inside a leather case, and closed the archive box. "No one touches this until I return," she told the custodian. As Zara left Windsor carrying her grandfather's final words, the question was no longer whether Meghan would face her. It was what each woman believed she was protecting. Zara and Meghan were never natural enemies. They were mothers shaped by different worlds, connected through the same complicated family, and divided by what royal inheritance truly meant. Yet Philip's sealed message placed them on opposite sides of Lilibet's future. Zara saw a child being denied part of her identity. Meghan saw the palace reaching across an ocean to reclaim influence. Between those convictions stood one little girl, and a grandfather's final request. Zara remembered Prince Philip as more than the Duke of Edinburgh. That title described his role as the Queen's husband. But to her, he was the blunt grandfather who challenged excuses and softened when family needed him. He taught relatives to know their ancestry without becoming prisoners of it. Now his undelivered words felt like a promise the family had broken. Meghan carried a different fear. She had watched Harry suffer beneath royal hierarchy, the system that ranks relatives through titles, duties, and closeness to the throne. She wanted Lilibet and Archie raised beyond that pressure. When Zara's call came, she set down her cup the instant she heard sealed message and Lilibet. Her silence exposed tension before her voice could hide it. A documented palace account deepened the unease. Meghan had previously been told that personal items for both children remained under royal protection, meaning they were held until transfer. She demanded written control over how each object or message would be presented. To her, that was parental protection. To Zara, it risked filtering Philip's private voice before Lilibet could hear it. Then another detail surfaced. Zara discovered that Harry had never received the full delivery instructions. Someone had told him a family item existed, but not that Philip had forbidden alteration or public use. Harry was not simply standing beside Meghan, he had been denied the information needed to choose. Mike Tindall watched Zara pack the archive notes and asked whether confronting Meghan would help Lilibet or merely restart an old war. Zara stopped, pressed both hands against the case, and answered that silence had already caused enough damage. Mike heard the grief beneath her anger, yet understood she would not retreat. Across the ocean, Harry saw Meghan's unease and asked what Zara had found. She replied only that Windsor had produced another document. His face tightened. Her refusal left him hurt, suspicious, and outside a decision involving his daughter. Both households prepared for the meeting, but not for the same purpose. Zara intended to deliver a truth. Meghan prepared to defend a boundary. But the division had not begun with the envelope, because one earlier encounter had already turned Philip's private wish into a battle over ownership, memory, and trust. Months before Philip's death, one conversation had quietly determined the fate of his message. It happened after a small family gathering at Windsor, when the old Duke asked a direct question about the great-granddaughter who carried the Queen's childhood name. What followed was not an argument, but something more damaging. A promise, interpreted in two completely different ways. Zara remembered that night clearly, and now understood why the envelope had never crossed the Atlantic. Prince Philip had feared that younger relatives living far from Britain would one day know the monarchy only through headlines, accusations, and public conflict. He wanted Lilibet to understand the private family behind those stories, the mistakes they carried, the duty they endured, and the affection they rarely expressed well. Her name made that wish even more personal, because Lilibet had been Queen Elizabeth's childhood nickname, used by those who knew the monarch before the crown defined her. Philip raised the subject after a private Windsor lunch. He turned to Meghan and asked whether his great-granddaughter would one day be allowed to receive an unedited letter from him. She answered carefully, but firmly. Nothing would reach her daughter without parental review and explanation. Meghan believed she was defending Lilibet from pressure. The old Duke heard something else. The possibility that his words could be reshaped before the child ever knew they were his. Philip placed his napkin down and looked toward Zara. Then he said quietly that a message ceased to belong to its writer when another person was allowed to change its meaning. Meghan stiffened. She took the remark as a challenge to her authority as a mother, while Zara recognized the fear beneath her grandfather's bluntness. He was not trying to control Lilibet's upbringing. He feared that adult anger would filter the child's heritage until nothing honest remained. That evening, Philip gave a trusted aide a recorded instruction. He ordered the letter sealed and appointed Zara as a family witness if normal delivery became impossible. A family witness meant someone personally trusted to confirm that private wishes were followed without turning them into an official palace decision. Zara now reread the aide's dated account and recognized the lunch immediately. Her voice fell to a whisper as she admitted that her grandfather had anticipated the dispute before Lilibet was even born. The record made his intention unmistakable. The palace was not to claim the child, Meghan was not to rewrite the past, and Lilibet was to receive one piece of family history untouched by either side. Zara closed the file, knowing the meeting ahead was no longer a simple delivery. Philip had placed a promise in her hands, and she intended to enforce it. And when Zara finally faced Meghan with the sealed case between them, years of carefully managed distance collapsed into one uncompromising conversation. There were no palace aides in the room, no press officers, and no carefully prepared statements. Zara placed the leather case on the table and waited for Meghan to sit. The Duchess remained standing. Neither woman offered a greeting warm enough to soften what was coming. Then Zara removed Philip's sealed envelope, turned Lilibet's name toward her mother, and delivered the accusation Meghan had feared. "You knew something had been left for her." Meghan's expression tightened, but she refused to step back. The meeting had been arranged inside a neutral private residence, far from Buckingham Palace and far from her California home, so neither woman could claim control over the ground beneath them. Zara had chosen the place carefully. This was not a royal summons. It was a family reckoning. Zara rested one hand beside the envelope and explained that she had never opened it. Philip's instructions protected his privacy and Lilibet's right to receive his words without another adult deciding what they meant. The sealed message was not an official royal document, but a private family letter preserved under written conditions. That difference mattered because the Crown could not rewrite it, and Meghan could not absorb it into her own version of events. Meghan pulled out a chair but remained standing behind it. She insisted that protecting her daughter from royal emotional pressure was not the same as denying her a family connection. She accused Zara of confusing heritage with obligation, warning that Lilibet would not be made responsible for repairing wounds created long before her birth. Zara did not soften. She answered that Meghan could not claim to defend the child's independence while deciding which family voices the girl was permitted to hear. Then she pushed the envelope across the table. Meghan stopped it with 2 fingers, staring at Lilibet's name without picking it up. The silence broke when Zara produced Philip's signed instruction. No parent, private secretary, communications advisor, or palace official could alter the contents. A private secretary is an aide who manages a royal figure's official work and correspondence, but even that position carried no authority here. The letter could never be used in a documentary, memoir, interview, or commercial project. Meghan's anger gave way to shock. Philip had anticipated more than a delivery dispute. He had feared his final words might become public property. Zara gave her 2 choices: accept the envelope under those terms and preserve it for Lilibet, or allow an independent trust, a protected legal arrangement managed outside either household, to hold it until the child reached adulthood. Meghan refused to decide immediately. Zara closed the instruction file and revealed one final truth. She was not the only person authorized to enforce Philip's wishes. Because behind Zara's challenge stood another royal figure whose approval could determine whether Meghan retained any control over the message at all. Zara had carried the envelope into the confrontation, but she did not hold the final authority alone. Philip's instructions named a second guardian, his eldest son. When King Charles received the file, he did not summon a council or issue an immediate command. He read every page in silence, removed his glasses, and rested his hand on the sealed message. The family dispute had now reached the monarch, and Charles understood that any decision would wound someone. Charles had been named senior family custodian, the person responsible for confirming that Philip's private wishes were protected without turning them into an official act of the crown. That distinction mattered. The king controlled access to royal archives, but the letter itself did not belong to the state. He could decide how it would be safeguarded. He could not change its meaning, rewrite its purpose, or claim ownership of a grandfather's final words. Charles read Philip's handwritten warning alone. The familiar bluntness pulled him back toward memories he had spent years containing. Yet Lilibet's distance made the choice harder. She was his granddaughter, growing up across an ocean, surrounded by a conflict she had never created. The monarch feared that enforcing the conditions would confirm Harry's darkest belief, that the institution still wanted to reach into his children's lives and make decisions over his head. Zara refused to let that fear decide the matter. During a private recorded conversation, she told Charles that inaction would be its own form of interference. Allowing adult hostility to erase Philip's direct bond with Lilibet would not protect the child. It would simply reward the silence that had trapped the message for years. Charles heard the anger in her voice, but he also heard grief. She was not fighting for palace control. She was fighting for her grandfather's promise. Then the file delivered its final shock. Philip had deposited a duplicate statement with a private solicitor, a lawyer trusted to hold documents outside palace control. The instruction could not vanish into royal bureaucracy or be softened through family pressure. It also activated a clear safeguard. If Meghan rejected protected delivery, the envelope would pass automatically into an independent trust, jointly overseen by Zara and a neutral guardian. Charles placed his pen beside the authorization form and walked away from the desk. He knew Harry would feel excluded. He knew Meghan would see force where he saw protection. Still, the king returned, signed the transfer order, and did not call his son first. That signature ended Meghan's ability to keep the message privately under her own conditions. It also placed Harry at the center of a decision made without him. Charles's signature settled the legal custody of Philip's words, but emotionally, it detonated inside Harry and Meghan's home before the ink had even dried. Harry did not first react as a prince or as a man at war with the institution. He reacted as a grandson. When he learned that Philip had written to Lilibet and that the message had remained hidden while arguments unfolded around it, his face tightened with unmistakable pain. Then Zara told him the detail that changed everything. His grandfather had expected Harry to help protect the letter. Someone had allowed him to remain completely unaware. Zara contacted Harry directly after Charles approved the trust arrangement. She believed he deserved to hear the truth from family before a formal palace notice reached him. The trust was a protected legal arrangement that would hold Philip's letter until Lilibet was old enough to receive it. Zara made one point clear. This was not a royal command, a title decision, or a demand for access to his daughter. It was a private inheritance of words from a great-grandfather who knew he might never meet her. Harry listened without interrupting, but humiliation quickly overtook grief. His cousin knew, his father knew. Even advisors had handled instructions concerning his child, while he remained outside the decision. That exclusion reopened an old wound, the fear that the family still viewed him as a problem to manage, rather than a father entitled to the truth. Harry turned to Meghan and asked whether she had ever been told that protected items existed for Lilibet and Archie. She hesitated. The pause lasted only seconds, yet it hurt more than a direct confession. Meghan finally admitted that she had known private material remained in royal care, but she never understood the full conditions attached to Philip's letter. Harry walked out, closed the door quietly, and sat alone with a photograph of his grandfather. He could not reconcile Philip's intention with the secrecy that followed. Meghan came after him and explained that she feared the palace would use the message as emotional leverage over Lilibet. Harry looked at her and answered with painful simplicity. Philip was not the palace. Then Zara revealed another detail during their recorded call. The Duke had written a separate note for Harry, explaining why he trusted him as Lilibet's father, but feared the adults surrounding her would not remain united. The note was sealed as well, but unlike the child's message, Harry could receive it immediately. That changed everything. Harry asked Zara for a private meeting without Meghan, Charles, lawyers, or communications teams. He was no longer trying to block the letter. He needed to understand why Philip believed his cousin might one day have to protect it from everyone, including him. Away from titles, advisors, and marital defenses, Harry and Zara were about to confront the one truth neither side had been willing to say aloud. Harry and Zara met without security briefings, palace representatives, or prepared language. For the first time since the message was discovered, no one in the room was trying to win. Harry asked only one question. Had Philip believed he would fail his own daughter? Zara's answer was painful, but not cruel. Their grandfather had not doubted Harry's love. He had doubted whether love could survive the bitterness surrounding Lilibet's identity. Harry remembered Philip as a man who challenged weakness without doubting affection. Zara remembered the same grandfather pushing them to speak plainly, especially when family pain tempted everyone into silence. Neither cousin believed he had created the trust to punish anyone. The trust mechanism, a protected legal arrangement controlling when and how the letter could be released, existed because he feared fractured families could turn innocent children into symbols of arguments they never began. Harry lowered his voice and admitted what had haunted him since Zara's call. He had spent years protecting Archie and Lilibet from the monarchy, yet somewhere along the way, he may also have protected them from relatives who genuinely loved them. The confession cost him. His fight had always felt righteous when the enemy was an institution. It became far harder when he saw the faces of people left outside. Zara answered with a confession of her own. Her confrontation with Meghan had not come from duty alone. Grief had driven her. She had spoken first as an angry granddaughter defending Philip, not as Lilibet's cousin trying to protect the child from another adult war. Harry heard the regret, and for the first time, neither side hid behind certainty. Harry placed Philip's separate note on the table, but could not break the seal. His hand remained beside it, as though opening the page might reopen every wound attached to his grandfather's name. Zara pushed the note gently back toward him. "No one else has the right to interpret those words first," she said. Harry opened it. Philip's message was direct. Lilibet should never be forced to choose between being loved by her parents and understanding the family from which she came. The note asked Harry to end inherited pain rather than pass it into his daughter's identity. He could reject old systems without teaching her to reject every person inside them. Harry read the final lines twice. Then he agreed that Lilibet's sealed envelope would remain in the independent trust until she was old enough to receive it. Neither parent could edit, publish, or exploit it. The cousins had settled the private battle. But beyond their closed conversation, news of Philip's message was already escaping. The family had finally reached a fragile understanding. Yet outside that room, a single leaked detail was already turning Philip's private wish into the monarchy's most emotional public story. By morning, the sealed message was no longer a private matter. Broadcasters called it a royal ultimatum. Commentators framed Zara and Meghan as opponents in a battle for Lilibet's identity. But the public reaction changed when one image appeared outside Windsor Castle. A young girl placing a handwritten note beside flowers for Prince Philip. The words were simple: "Every child deserves to know who loved them." And suddenly the argument felt painfully human. Confirmation of Philip's letter spread across the world within hours. Coverage focused on Zara's confrontation, Meghan's objections, and Charles's decision to authorize the independent trust. Palace officials issued a restrained statement, explaining that the correspondence was private, protected, and intended only for Lilibet when she reached an appropriate age. The statement revealed nothing about the contents, but its careful language confirmed that the dispute was real. Meghan watched the coverage turn her fear as a mother into accusations of control. She heard presenters debate whether she had tried to block Lilibet's heritage, and anger rose beneath her silence. Her daughter's future had become entertainment. Yet the Duchess also understood that refusing the arrangement publicly would make the conflict even larger. Zara felt no victory. Headlines called her a royal enforcer, as though she had confronted Meghan to defend palace power. She had wanted to preserve Philip's voice, not defeat Lilibet's mother. Every aggressive headline pushed the truth further away, and Zara began to fear that the message she protected might become the weapon her grandfather had warned against. Then one moment changed the national mood. Outside Windsor Castle, cameras captured a school-aged girl laying a white envelope beside flowers left in Philip's memory. A small crowd read the handwritten sentence and fell silent. Every child deserves to know who loved them. The girl walked back to her mother, but the message remained. It reduced years of royal hostility to one simple truth. That evening, a national broadcaster changed its framing during a recorded news segment. The presenter described the dispute not as a palace victory, but as a question of whether children should inherit family love without inheriting family warfare. The shift was immediate. Anger gave way to reflection. Harry then released a personal written statement confirming that he supported the trust and that Philip's message would remain completely private until Lilibet could receive it herself. Charles read his son's words at his desk and exhaled with visible relief. For the first time in years, father and son had publicly supported the same family decision. Public pressure began to fade, but one final wound remained. Zara and Meghan still had to decide whether Philip's letter would divide them forever or become the boundary that ended their conflict. The world had offered its judgment, but the true verdict would be delivered privately, when the two women met once more, without an envelope standing between them. The second meeting between Zara and Meghan began differently. There was no leather case on the table, and no demand waiting to be answered. Philip's message was already protected. Harry had accepted the arrangement, and Charles had surrendered control to the trust. What remained was personal. Zara had confronted Meghan to defend a dead grandfather's wishes. Meghan had resisted to defend a living daughter. Now both women had to admit that love had made them enemies. Zara spoke first. The sealed message had been deposited with the independent trust, a protected legal arrangement that would keep the letter beyond the control of either household. No one could open it, alter it, describe it publicly, or use it commercially before Lilibet reached the designated age. Charles, Harry, Meghan, and Zara had signed the same confidentiality and preservation agreement. No parent, monarch, or family witness held greater access than another. Zara admitted that accusing Meghan of deliberately stealing Lilibet's heritage had gone too far. She still believed the letter could not remain trapped in silence. But grief had sharpened her words into something cruel. The granddaughter had fought for Philip so fiercely that she had nearly forgotten the child at the center of his final wish. Meghan answered without hiding behind palace history. Her distrust of the institution had caused her to treat Philip's private words as another royal strategy. She had failed to separate the grandfather from the crown. Protecting Lilibet mattered, but fear had convinced her that every family connection carried a demand behind it. Meghan extended her hand across the table. Zara watched it for several seconds before taking it. The gesture did not restore friendship or erase the confrontation. It created one promise: Lilibet would no longer be forced to carry their anger. Zara then shared the only sentence Philip had authorized the adults to know. Lilibet's name should remind her that belonging is not obedience, and freedom does not require forgetting where she came from. Meghan lowered her eyes, then agreed that when her daughter received the letter, she would read it alone first. Lilibet would decide whether to discuss it with either side of the family. Harry regained a private connection to his grandfather. Zara fulfilled the responsibility entrusted to her. Meghan preserved her daughter's agency, while Charles prevented another generation from inheriting an unfinished royal grievance. The monarchy had learned a painful truth: legacy could not survive through control, secrecy, or public victory. It survived only when the next generation received the past without being forced to repeat its battles. Zara's confrontation did not return Meghan to royal life or erase mistrust. It protected one child's right to know she had been loved by both sides of a divided family. And with Philip's message sealed safely for Lilibet, not possessed by the palace, not controlled by her parents, and not weaponized by the public, the confrontation ended as his final lesson intended. The adults stepped back, and the child's future finally belonged to her. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.